Banana slam jam.
We got another replay analysis. It's going to be a 3300 TerrorBlade game. And let's check out and see what he's got. Yeah, it looks like a pretty tough TerrorBlade game. You're against Troll Carry, Sand King off, Pango, and a Tinker. All very hard matchups for TerrorBlade. Seemed weird to meta when you did. It was like by the time he'd already attacked your creep, so you couldn't attack it between then. Long story short, whenever he was holding you hostage there. Like, this is a situation where you're getting held hostage on the range creep. Check out my YouTube videos if you haven't seen them already. I've already talked about this, where the range creep is 2 hits from dead. And so in this type of case, where the range creep's 2 hits from dead, you need to be able to hit it if he hits it before he hits it again. Just how it is. So whether or not that means metaing right now or walking at the creep. That's your 2 choices. Nowhere in between is going to work. That's your only choices. Anything else, it gets denied. This stuff happens in every lane. It applies in all circumstances. And you should never, like, right there when the creep was 2 hits, you should either ask your lion to hit it with you, or you shouldn't hit it. Those are your 2 choices. And if they end up denying it, that's life. But you giving them deny is what we're trying to avoid happening. Right there, same thing again. You're literally missing CS because of 1 mechanic. Could have aggroed the creeps at the end of that creep wave, such that the creeps, like, came this way, then your creep wave met them there, and then you're not dealing with heroes. You're not, like, creep aggroing at all. Kind of like a big deal, especially in the 3K bracket, because nobody else does it either. Or at least not very many people do it. Okay, you did creep aggro there.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
I would be ready to summon an illusion the second that Pango swashes. Like right now, I would summon illusion. The only reason you don't want to summon illusion is because it just dies to Pango swash. Suddenly there's a troll in your lane.
Dire's courier has been killed.
I'll drag creeps to your range. Good job. Okay. He's doing the same thing you did. Okay. You gotta get better with your mechanics over time. Maybe it's the first game of the day. Not sure.
Dire's courier has been Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay. Reasonable stuff going on here.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
So right now, I want you to be thinking. You have a strong start. Okay? I understand your hero's countered. I have a feeling I know what I'm going to see, but I hope I see otherwise. When you're dealing with a hero like Tinker as TerrorBlade, Once he gets bots, it's almost impossible for you to get towers. Like, it's almost impossible. So at that point, when you're ahead like this, if you're strong enough to do so, which what I mean by is you are ahead, so you are strong enough, you're going to have to force a tower before his boots of travel. You just have to, man. Like, you don't have a choice. If you don't get a tower now, you're never going to get one. So this is an example of sacrificing temporarily your farm rate in order to gain map control, which will then give you more farm over time. Like, you'll lose, say, 300 gold in the next minute, but then you'll gain it all back over the course of 5 minutes and more, right? Because of the farm you've gained by taking towers. So what I mean by this is, if I proceed to see that you don't take a tower with your team, or your team doesn't take a tower, the exception for when you wouldn't have to show up to a tower is if you feel like your axe is going to get the tower anyways. But even then, I think you should show up to his lane because axe isn't exactly like a fast tower pusher. So I would just show up to either Axe or Queen of Pain, and I think you're more likely to go to Axe because he's very aggressive. He sets up kills for you. He's going to be diving with you, and you two combined will be very good pressure on the bottom tower that the opponent's not ready to deal with because their Troll's having a really bad game, their Pengo's not 6, their Sand King's not 6, and their Tinker doesn't have bots yet. And I have a feeling you're just going to stay in your own jungle or in your own lane here. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm glad to be wrong. And instead, Tinker comes to your lane and feeds. Very fascinating. So, they just 3-manned bottom. Tinker just came to your lane and fed. Any ideas? Chat. People watching on YouTube. Guy that I'm studying the replay of. With what I said in mind, what needs to happen right fucking now? What needs to happen right fucking now? Easy mid tower. Indeed. Easy mid tower. Easy fucking mid tower. You need to TP here right now and kill this shit, dude. You just have to. I told you bottom for reasons why I expected it to work. And the reason why bottom was likely more so than mid at 8 minutes was because the Tinker would be defending mid. Tinker is now dead. He is not defending mid. They just made a 3-man move on bottom. You just killed the Tinker. Fucking go mid. This tower has to fucking die. It has to die right now because you're not going to get it later. You should be here finishing this tower off. It's a huge deal. Instead, your Queen of Pain is trying to kill it with a level 5 troll. Level 5 fucking troll, dude! Just defended the tower. Why would you choose mid over this tower? Because Tinker is dead for 22 seconds. By the time he's alive, you've just approached this tower. If you had TP'd mid, you would have a full 15 seconds to wail on this shit. And it would be dead. See what I mean? Very important, especially in really bad games for your hero. On a hero like TerrorBlade or Luna, when it's a hard game, like you're this like early game hero that could potentially push towers, but you're kind of squish. Like that's why I put TerrorBlade and Luna in the same category here. If you have an opportunity to get a tower, you just have to take it, man. You have to. And it's so important that you didn't there. Huge deal. I've played a lot of TerrorBlade that decides games sometimes. Getting that mid tower is instrumental because once Tinker gets bots, you ain't fucking getting it, bro. You ain't getting that tower. Okay. So we're content with nothing happening with that meta, which is obviously bad. We've talked about it. It's life, whatever.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
So I like that you're continuously pressuring this tower. This was good. It's important. You went for the Dragon Lance. I think that's important too, because you do need to take these early towers. if you're capable. Like, if you had a really bad lane, you probably just lose this game, to be honest with you. So,
Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's bottom tower
you do end up getting mid tower, so it doesn't backfire too hard. In games where it's a bit closer, that would matter a lot more. I mean, this is just a completely unnecessary meta. This is just so beyond unnecessary. You're so strong, the only time you meta is when you think it's gonna, like, drastically increase your farm rate. That was just, like, a complete fucking waste. Absolute fucking waste. I want you to think that you don't have to meta. The meta has to do something, and it also has to be weighed against the fact of whether or not you'd be willing to use meta to do something else. Like, whether or not you'd be willing to use it to fight with your team. I think right now, a great use of meta would be to have just walked up into an engagement, killed one guy, and backed off. And if that doesn't happen, then you don't use it. Because you need to be able to have that happen at all times. Notice how at 8 minutes, I said, okay, you're going to have meta coming up. Tinker doesn't have bots yet. They're weak. You need to look for an opportunity to take a tower. And it's going to present itself, and you just need to look for it. Whether or not that's bottom, whether or not that's mid, you need to look for that opportunity. Here, it's the same idea, but with the way you use your metamorph. It's like, I need to be looking to use my meta to do X. When that situation arises, I use meta. Otherwise, I need to wait for that situation. The exception would be is if your meta, like, drastically increased your farm rate in a situation where there's, like, a quadruple ancient stack or something. But that, once again, is allowing you to accomplish something that you couldn't accomplish without using meta. You just meta to, like, save 3 seconds per creep camp. It just doesn't matter enough. It's such a poor usage. And now, if there were an opportunity for you to show up to a fight and just get 1 or 2 kills real quick and then continue farming again, you don't have it. This is like the perfect type of play that results in just random opportunities missed that are really hard for you to see. And it's a really hard mistake in Dota for me to, like, hammer into people's minds because it doesn't manifest itself very obviously as a mistake. But when I play with, like, super high tier players, if you play with these players, it feels like they're always in the right place at the right time, always capitalizing on opponent mistakes, and this is the type of mentality that will 100% help you at all brackets. Because in your bracket, people make more mistakes, and they'll give you more windows. So you don't have to be as good at recognizing these windows because you'll get more of them. Like, in my bracket, I would have never had a Tinker show up to my lane and die to me. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's an opportunity that's presented to you that you could have capitalized on that I wouldn't have. And that's like an example where, because even though I'm applying this in my games, it's almost even more important in your games to, like, capitalize on enemy mistakes.
Dire are scanning. Dire's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's top
Pretty
tower
poor
is
illusion
under
micro
attack.
top. Instead of killing the wave, it just kind of walked towards you. I think what you're doing right now in terms of map farming patterns is fine. You're not strong enough to take tier 2s, so you just need to get items. Nice blink by Tinker. I'm just gonna be honest with you and tell you this Manta's trash. You may say BSJ, they have Whirling Axes, BSJ, they have Pango Disarm, BSJ, they have Laser. It's a 4,500 gold item that's not gonna make you in the game. And it doesn't make you more survivable while you're farming. And it just doesn't make you more of a threat to the opponent. I actually don't know how else to describe it. It doesn't change anything other than being able to remove Laser, Whirling Axes, and Pangolier Disarm. And then if you're in an actual fight, they're just going to use another one on you, or you're going to get Lich ultied, or you're going to be running through March. This has to be an SNY, or just not anything. It has to be an SNY. It just has to. Because what's going to happen is you're going to eventually, to kill these heroes, you need a BKB, an MKB, and like a gap closing Hurricane Pike. That's what you need against these heroes. And then eventually you'll need a Satanic as well. Like, you need all of these items. This is a really bad TerrorBlade game. But when it's a really bad TerrorBlade game on a hero like TerrorBlade that can absolutely solo carry the game in a meta where TerrorBlade is strong, you just need items. All of your items need to address all of your problems. And so when I'm like thinking at the very start of this game, you're going to have to need a BKB and an MKB at some point. So are you really going to go Manta, MKB, BKB? Like, that just sounds so bad. Like, I don't really know how else to describe it. Because then at that point, the Manta's like accomplishing the same thing as your BKB. And then, I don't know, man. It's like MKB makes it so you don't have to use it for trolls thing. Status resistance goes better with against heroes like Pango and Sand King. It's also really good with Satanic. This is a high-level concept itemization thing, but I need you to understand that when you're countered, your items have to address something. Like, they have to do something that changes the game for you. And your Manta really changes nothing. And I hope you see that now. I hope you do. Butterfly is absolute trash here, too. I hope that doesn't get built. Scotty also changes nothing. It makes you tankier. That's it. It doesn't change anything. The heroes that you're going to be killing, they don't die if you have a Scotty compared to not having it. TLDR, you're building like it's a perfect TerrorBlade game, and it's not. Terrible use of meta again. I don't really know what to say about these metas. I have no idea what your idea is. Like, the Tinker's respawning, so he's just going to defend the tower and then push you away. You definitely should have used the Essence Ring before you, And now you just don't have meta for this. That guy would have died. GG. Perfect example. That entire thing happened because you randomly meta top. And I'm going to be honest, in games like this, if you are in this situation as TerrorBlade with a Manta, and like basically what I'm saying is not ideal items, you're just going to lose the game. You need too many items in this game. That's because you're countered. You need too many items. So if you're countered, what that usually means is you need a lot of items. And the way a player like Arteezy wins these games is that they just get a bunch of fucking items that addresses every problem they have. And the problem I see here is when you build an item like Manta that costs 4,500 gold and doesn't address any of your problems, then now that you're behind, you're now dealing with Troll Axes, you're dealing with Sand King, Pangolier, Tinker, Lich. You need a BKB to survive. You need an MKB to deal damage. And now you can't do any of it. Because you wasted 4,500 gold. Like, I would say you wasted, if you wanted to go the Yasha, that's reasonable. In this game, I think it's even reasonable to not go Yasha, but if you're going to go Yasha, it's 100% either left as a Yasha or it turns into a Sanjin Yasha, because MKB Satanic are 100% in your future, and Sanjin Yasha synergizes with that really well. So sometimes an item can make more sense because of the way you plan to scale in the game, in terms of like what you're combining it with. I would argue that just going like straight Hurricane Pike, MKB, BKB would be a nice build here. The way I look at this is that if Tinker blinks in, you just need to fucking kill him, right? And if you get on top of the Tinker, he just needs to die. And that's the way you win fights. Your heroes deal well with Troll pretty well. You have a lot of disables, a lot of Kite. So your hero needs to deal with Tinker eventually. And so I think your items just don't say that you need to do that. So you force fights early when you have this Manta, which I think is a big mistake. That one death is going to set you back a lot. Then you misused meta and died again. Bottom here. Okay, so let's see what happens. You know, nice Manta, right? Like, is it helping you hit anybody? Really, though? Nice turnaround, though. They extended a little bit too long. We are going for Scotty. Once again, don't like this item here.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, you're just 100% going to lose this game because of itemization. You don't carry with these items
Dire's top tower is under attack.
in this game.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's bottom tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower structure being destroyed.
Precious bounties.
Dire's structures under fortified.
Your use of meta was obviously pretty mediocre early, too. Luckily, they are overextending, which is allowing you to actually deal damage. This is good for you. These are good plays by you. These reactions you're giving and, like, capitalizing on their overextensions is good. This is all nice.
Radiant are scanning.
I firmly believe this butterfly is a waste of 5k.
Dire are scanning.
They try to force erosion feed. Okay. Okay. Nice. So your teamfight execution is pretty good. Manta usage is pretty good. So you are using the items you're buying properly, which is great. You got a triple kill. Going to Roche. The Aegis. Paladin Sword's quite a fortunate pickup here.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Invisibility.
You're doing a good job of sending your illusions to waves. I would send an illusion bottom for sure. Okay, you're gonna walk bottom. Yeah. With Metamorph, I would argue that you probably didn't want to walk bottom there, but not the biggest deal.
Radiant's top tower.
Meaning by walking bottom, you made it so you weren't really able to fight with your team if they did want to fight. So just another like potential missing of an opportunity.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Another very loosey-goosey use of Metamorph. You have 26,000 net worth, and you can't fight heroes. The only reason fights up until this point have worked is because you're showing up later when your team is in the middle of the fight already, no abilities are being casted on you, and you're hitting people. Eventually, you have to carry this fucking game. Like, eventually, you're going to be the guy in front, getting gone on, and fucking manning up and killing people. Eventually, that happens. Eventually, your items have to allow you to do that, because that is what TerrorBlade does. And this is something I've been seeing a lot in my games recently, even at the highest bracket, is a skill that applies at all brackets. What is your vision here? How do you expect to win fights? What is like the series of events that these items allow you to hit people on the opponent team? You can't BKB and commit on the Tinker because they have a ton of counter initiation to save him. If Tinker doesn't get gone on, you're not doing shit. What is your method of winning fights? How do you win fights? Do you win long fights? Short fights? Who are you hitting? Who are you initiating onto? What are the threats to you that you have to worry about? I feel like your items just do nothing. Straight up. I know I said it earlier, but you saw it in this fight. Yeah, you popped meta early, but even if you had meta here, you weren't hitting anybody.
Precious bounty.
So your meta usage, big problem. You need to think conceptually not only about your items and what they do for fights, but also what your meta means to you and your team when it comes to fighting. I mean, the sheer idea of not buying MKB against Troll Warlord and Tinker is, like, beyond me. I can't really figure that one out. MKB and BKB not being in your inventory, at least one of them, who are you hitting? What's the plan? So here's how itemization works. Itemization, for the most part, is the only thing you can do in a game to adjust to heroes that are good or bad against you. It's the only thing you can do. Yeah, there's, like, playstyle changes and, like, you know, skill levels early game or whatever. Or, like, skill builds early game. But mid to late game, pretty much the only thing you can change is items. From game to game. So items tell a lot about skill level, understanding of the game, all that kind of stuff. You need to think about how TerrorBlade ideally plays the game. You know, I have a TerrorBlade guide on YouTube where I talk in depth about how TerrorBlade ideally plays the game of Dota 2. And you need to think about what makes him successful as a hero. He goes into meta, and he hits people. Period. He stands his ground and fucking hits people. That's what TerrorBlade does. He's high armor, has Sunder, and then he hits people. So heroes in the game that make that difficult are pseudo or hard counters. Like, they're either soft counters or they're hard counters. And your items are idealistic, like, great TerrorBlade game. I'm just going to carry the shit out of this. They have high physical damage, you know, no AoE, and very little magic burst. And I'm just going to fucking sit here and wail on people with a Scotty that slows them, a butterfly that makes me attack really fast and do a lot of damage. And I'm just going to shred bitches. In this game, you have like 4 things that prevent these items from allowing you to hit things. They have almost purely magic damage other than one hero. They have multiple things that are AoE and catch you and all of your illusions. Your team has no save. There's nothing that once you get gone onto that anything's ever going to happen good for you here. You have no turn potential other than sundering. That's about your only turn potential. You didn't address anything that counters you on the opponent team with your items. And thus, your hero, no matter how farmed you get, is going to look terrible. Because you're countered and you didn't itemize to deal with the counters. So, at every bracket you guys are in, this is an understanding thing. Like, this is an understanding of the game thing. And it's hard. It's a hard concept. And it may seem harsh to harp on like a 3K player for this kind of stuff. But obviously you submit the replay and you tell me why you lost. I think overall, your metamorphosis usage was really bad. And you do need to think more in depth about, you know, what your metamorphosis will accomplish when you use it. But I really do think that the problem that is causing you to use metamorph poorly is also the same problem as the items. It's like your vision of the game, your impact on the game, how you're going to scale, as well as like what you represent as a threat for your team, all that kind of stuff. Because use of metamorphosis in this type of game is also very much about that too. You missed a couple good fights because of it. There's opportunities that I may have even missed that you missed because of your bad metamorphosis usage. And like, if you use your metamorphosis top, for instance, here, and Tinker's respawning, what's your vision of that metamorphosis? What do you think's gonna happen? Isn't the Tinker just gonna TP and then you back off? Isn't that like really fucking obvious? Like, I'm trying to be nice here, but at the same time, it's like, I think that's really obvious. And you've played a pretty good amount of TerrorBlade, so this isn't like, you know, super advanced shit. The guy's gonna TP in and laser you once and you're backing off. Like, that's what's gonna happen. So when it comes to skill usage and itemization, what's gonna come next after you apply the, like, after you use the skill or after you build the item is really important. I think Hurricane Pike, MKB, BKB, Sanjin Yasha, and Satanic are all in your wheelhouse here, and then probably last item, Daedalus. Like, that's probably what I'm looking at here. And the Daedalus is just because at that point your BKB is getting shorter, and you need to kill heroes faster. And I also think your team fight relies heavily on you committing onto Tinker and killing him. And so your items need to allow you to hit the Tinker, ignoring the rest of his team. At any given point, it's not necessarily that every fight's going to start out with you doing that, but you need that threat at all points. It makes the game harder for Tinker to play, and it gives you a win condition for fights at any given moment that Tinker fucks up. At any moment that you catch him in a reflection, or your team, or your axe gets a call on the Tinker, your Hurricane piking in, BKBing, ult, or metamorphosing, and killing the fucking Tinker. In this build, if your teammates initiate onto Tinker, how do you kill him? How are you contributing? Like, you're not contributing, and that's the problem. So it's about the vision for how you're going to win fights, how your hero's going to scale into the late game, and that's what causes you to lose a game like this. So a lot of little other things that I mentioned during the game, but overwhelmingly this like decisive problem of itemization. But itemization encompasses a lot of things in Dota. So it's an overarching theme that I want you to rework your mindset on how you view the game of Dota, and that's important. So I hope you feel like that was helpful.